Welcome back. The way the Russian news media reported this story, Vladimir Putin's chosen successor, Dmitry Medvedev, won a landslide victory in a free and fair presidential election. But here's a question that media-savvy Russians were asking themselves during the campaign there. Where was the opposition in the news coverage? The tale of the videotape and a scan of the papers tell us the version of the story the media were telling did not necessarily reflect political reality. The Listening Post's Simon Ostrovsky now from Moscow on Russia's almost invisible opposition.
Moscow. It's election day, and I've come to Red Square to find out how Russia's media are going to cover a vote which observers say has only one real candidate, Vladimir Putin's hand-picked successor, Dmitry Medvedev. The international media have gathered here too, and they're following opposition leaders as well as Putin's candidate.
It is not easy, to tell people to join rallies when they know that they're taking considerable risk.
Unwilling to let Medvedev come to power unopposed, an opposition leader has come to the Kremlin walls to try to get his voice heard.
In the middle of that crowd of journalists is Garry Kasparov. He's one of the leaders of the Russian opposition. Usually, coming out in public like this is considered an unsanctioned protest by the Russian authorities. But because the media is here today, it's not being broken apart. Whether or not it'll be shown on TV tonight on the state channels is another matter.
It's always been difficult to get uncensored news in Russia. In the Soviet era, one of the only outlets were illegal hand-typed news sheets like these, which were passed from person to person at great risk.
The reason we used flimsy paper is because you could make more copies and because you can fold it. It takes up less space and you can hide it, like this.
It's been almost 20 years since the fall of the Soviet Union, and Russia is transformed. But what about the media? When Vladimir Putin became president 8 years ago, television and other news media had become the spitting image of programs in the West.
I would like to add that freedom of speech is not threatened. Not only is it guaranteed by the Constitution, but I'm looking after it personally.
But then the Kremlin tightened the screws again. And along with the puppets, Russian broadcasters have been forced to pack their once critical line away into deep storage. When NTV, Russia's most vocal government critic, was taken over by state-owned Gazprom in 2001, its journalists resisted. They staged protests and aired damning reports. But eventually, one critical program after the other was shut down, and the station's chief, Yevgeny Kiselyov, was forced out. Today, he works for RTVI, which targets Russia's massive émigré population and only retains its independence because it doesn't broadcast to Russia.
What's on Russian TV today?
Russian television is not so bad. As a matter of fact, if you look at the entertainment side of it, you will see that Russian television is no more different from any television in the world. But when you watch news programs, you would inevitably come to a conclusion that this is no informational programs. These are propaganda programs. These are kind of, brainwashing tools for the government.
One thing hasn't changed under Putin. The killing of Anna Politkovskaya, a critical journalist in 2006, was only the latest and most prominent in a string of nearly 50 journalist killings since the fall of the Soviet Union. In the last few years, the Kremlin has gone on an international information offensive, launching Russia Today, an English-language channel whose creators say they want the world to see things from a Russian perspective. I went to their outside broadcast unit to speak to one of Russia Today's new British presenters and asked him if working in the company was the same as working for a Western news organization.
Every news organization has an agenda, and really the agenda for Russia Today is to give the wider world an appreciation of what life is like here. It's not just about politics, it's not just about hard news, it's also an indication of what life's here in terms of its documentaries and discussion programs.
On election night, Russia Today's agenda was to air two documentaries, one extolling Putin's virtues and the other an attack on the opposition.
Reports on who is in opposition to the Kremlin and what their real goal is on Russia Today.
One pro-Putin parliamentary deputy told me that those in power have always controlled the media in Russia one way or the other.
During the 90s, which are sometimes admired in the West, our TV, I may tell you that absolutely frankly, as a Russian citizen, was totally controlled, not by state, by some business oligarch groups, and that was the major reason Mr. Yeltsin won his presidential election in 1996. So the situation today and the problem of Russian television today does not differ so much from the situation we've had in always, so to say. So yes, we need to have solutions, better solutions for that, but it's not an easy task, and we will definitely solve it. But again, it's not a disaster, it's not a drama,
Is it
and
propaganda?
it's not a propaganda, and definitely it has not at all influenced the approaches, sympathies of people who vote today for the future president of Russia.
But Garry Kasparov said that state control of the airwaves meant opposition voices such as his own could not be heard by ordinary Russians.
Mr. Kasparov, do you think your words said here today will be on Russian television tonight?
Everybody knows the answer. Of course not.
Why not?
But you should ask people who control Russian television. They are not hiding the fact that there are so-called blacklists and or stop lists, and they know that if we are given a chance to promote our views, things could be very different.
Thank you.
When the results come in, it's as the pundits predicted. Medvedev wins by a landslide, but Western news networks cite election irregularities.
In fact, state-run TV then made sure that Medvedev was the only star of the show, and then the opposition says they went even further than that. They essentially extorted people to go to the ballot boxes yesterday.
Russian state television downplays the problems as insignificant technical issues.
All the information the observers needed for normal working conditions was provided for. It was noted that even if there were some problems, then they were purely technical nature and were professionally and quickly rectified on location.
I asked the presenter if he had any personal experience of Kremlin meddling in his news reports.
There's never any phone calls from the Kremlin telling you not to report something or telling you how to tell the news?
So far I didn't get any phone calls. My mobile is always with me, but so far I didn't have a chance to speak with Kremlin, unfortunately.
The newly elected president will take office in May, but who will really run the country?
With Medvedev securely placed as the next Russian president and Vladimir Putin getting ready to enter his new role as prime minister, the only dilemma Russia's television channels now face is who to devote more airtime to, Medvedev or Putin.
Nominated Medvedev as their presidential candidate.
More Global Village Voices now on reporting Russian politics.
This election has had possibly one of the most unfair media coverages in the new history of Russia. Even the chairman of the Central Electoral Commission, Mr. Churov, himself admitted that the TV coverage for the election was very, very biased towards Mr. Medvedev, the United Russia Party candidate.
I can say that the government channels I don't watch too often, and I only watch those channels when I'm in a good mood so I can laugh about it, because it is such an unsophisticated, crude, Soviet-style brainwashing that it literally makes me sick.
I don't think the media has been objective, in the sense that while they are correct in saying that the election is unfair, I think it has often reached, particularly in British media and to some extent in the US media as well, a sort of level of Russophobia, where it's gotten to the point where commentators are saying, well, Russia cannot be a democracy, Russia will always fall back to this sort of neo-oriental, feudal state or whatever.
Finally, Morgan Spurlock is an American filmmaker who made his name a few years back with Super Size Me, his cautionary tale about fast food, particularly McDonald's. He's got a new movie coming out, more of a political piece on some unfinished American business, but we're guessing it won't be getting much playing time in the White House screening room. We've never ended the broadcast with a movie trailer before, but this one's getting so many hits on the web, it's our Internet Video of the Week. We'll see you next time at The Listening Post.
Throughout history, mankind has gone to the ends of the earth to chase the greatest treasures. Now, the final search begins for the most elusive prize of them all.
Yoo-hoo! Osama! If I've learned anything from big-budget action movies, it's that complicated global problems are best solved by one lonely guy.
Where are you going to be going?
We're going to go look for Osama bin Laden.
Okay.
If I'm going to find Osama, then I'm going to be traveling to some pretty scary places.
This course is reality-based protection. Turn away from the grenade.
How do I say, don't take me, take the cameraman? I'm looking for Osama bin Laden. Why is that funny? We don't know whether he's in a cave with the door shut. I was wondering if we could ask you a question.
No.
Or a cave with the door open. I got a tip on where to find his uncle, Mahfouz Assam.
You wouldn't turn him in for the $25 million?
It's impossible. Mission is impossible.
This is hardcore Taliban country.
There's 21 guys here with guns.
You guys know where Osama's at? And they always point.
Jittadai Osama.
So that way.